I'm joined once again by Susan Solovic, small business expert and CEO of SBTV.com. And in this segment, Susan joins us to answer some viewer questions. Susan, thanks so much for sticking around.
My pleasure.
So we do have a caller on the line. We're going to start with Kimberly Thigpen from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Hello, Kimberly. Are you there?
Yes, hi, I'm here. Thanks for taking my question today.
So why don't you start by telling us about your business?
Okay, great. Well, my business is called The Bath Place, and we make natural soaps, soy candles, and bath and body products that we sell online at thebathplace.com. Now, what makes our product unique is that they're handmade using simple ingredients and small quality control bags.
All right, sounds great. What is your question for Susan?
Okay. Now, my first question is, I still work full-time, and prior to starting the business, my employer was discussing a promotion. But since becoming aware of the business, I'm no longer being considered for that position. How do you address this type of treatment in the workplace?
Kimberly, you've got a unique situation here, and I actually was talking about that a little bit earlier, in that sometimes employers don't prohibit the moonlighting or the side businesses, but there's sort of this informal thing that runs through the company that it's sort of forbidden and frowned upon. It sounds like that is what you're up against. And the interesting thing about being passed over for a job that you might say, well, that's discrimination, that's not fair. The discriminatory laws only cover certain illegal discrimination issues, so things like race or religion or ethnicity, or your sexual orientation. So those are the kinds of things you'd have to look at and say, is there something here that possibly has to do with one of these illegal discrimination laws? If not, honestly, because you're an employee at will, there's really not much you could do about it at this point.
Kimberly, did you have a follow-up question for Susan?
Yeah, I actually did have a different question, Susan, as well. Thank you. I'm doing well also with day-to-day operation of the business, but once that's done, I'm exhausted when it's time to take care of those activities that will help me to grow the business. Do you have any suggestions for finding the right balance and getting more done?
Kimberly, if I had the answer for that question, I'd be a kabillionaire. Everybody's looking for that balance right now. Honestly, you are in that situation that I call the proverbial fork in the road. It sounds like your business is growing, it's doing very well, but you're still trying to balance it with your full-time job. What I think you're going to find yourself having to make a decision, probably sooner rather than later, is, do I want to just let my full-time job go and focus on my part-time business full-time and continue to grow it? Because you just can't do it all, and it's going to continue to be stressful if you're going to grow your business. There's no magic answer here, no magic wand, but I think you're going to have to make a decision.
All right, we wish you the best of luck, Kimberly. Thanks for your call. We have another caller on the line, Peggy Burdick from Redondo Beach, California. Hey, Peggy.
Hi.
Good. Tell me about your business.
Well, first of all, Susan, thank you for taking my question. I have a coaching series called The Financial Whisperer, and I help women separate their emotions from their money. My problem is this. I also have a paycheck job, and when people go to my site and sign up for my workshops, I then try to get my paycheck job people give me the schedule, let's say, for the next 6 weeks. They're non-committal. But I've got to book workshops, so I book them, I take the money, I start, and then sometimes the paycheck people come back to me, let's say 3 weeks into the session, and tell me I have to work on the date the workshop is scheduled. So then I dance around trying to reschedule the workshop. Becomes a disaster, and that, frankly, I think it makes me look unprofessional.
Peggy, I certainly empathize with your situation. I think what you have to keep in mind here is your paycheck job is your #1 responsibility. And there obviously is a history with your current employer of this sort of last-minute, obligation to have to work on a Saturday. So my suggestion for you would be not to try to ask your current employer to fix your problem, but you need to learn how maybe you can manage your time so that it is going to coincide better with with your current position, your current job. So for example, instead of maybe doing those workshops on Saturdays, could you possibly do them on an evening? Or maybe you do them on another day, like perhaps even a Sunday afternoon. I think you're going to have to look for solutions that are going to be conducive with your full-time position, not ask your employer to fix your part-time business. So I know it's a tough situation you're in, but it's always important to remember that the first thing you have to keep in mind is that full-time job. That comes first, your part-time business second. I think you're just creating expectations for your customers that you're not always going to be able to live up to, and you said it yourself, it makes you look unprofessional, and that's not what you want. And I know that you don't deserve that reputation, because I can tell you're very good at what you do.
Peggy, we have time for one more quick follow-up question from you for Susan.
From me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what, you've answered, you said exactly what I didn't want to hear.
I'm sorry, Peggy.
That's okay. I'm a big girl. I got to take my medicine. You're right. The paycheck job is the key, and I have to be conscious of that,
Yeah. Well, Peggy, thanks so much for your call. We wish you the best of luck with your full-time job and your business. So Susan, those were some tough questions, because basically what you're saying is no matter what you're doing on the side, you got to keep your eye on the ball, which is that full-time job that has benefits.
That's right. That's your primary responsibility, is that full-time job. So like in Peggy's situation, she's going to have to figure a way to manage her time so that she can fulfill that part-time business. Or in the other situation where she's getting passed over for a promotion, which is more important, the promotion or her part-time business. So those are the things you have to balance.
Yeah, not an easy task, especially when you're passionate about that part-time
Right, but a lot of those part-time businesses become full-time success stories. So
let's hope. All right, Susan, thanks so much for taking the time to answer our viewer questions. And thank you to Kimberly and Peggy for calling in. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Susan about your small business, go to our website at abcnews.com and click on the Money page to send in your questions. We'll do our very best to answer them right here on Good Money. That's all the time we had for Good Money today. I'm Stephanie Sy in New York. Thanks for watching.